dawn in the battle's chill. Flags unfurled, we march uphill. Hearts like fire, unbreakable will. Voices united, echoing still. For freedom we stand and are unmet. This long and struggle our spirits set. Hands clasped, time, strength unspent. In unity we find our lament. Under starry skies our dreams ignite. Facing the dark with fearless light. Though shadows fall, they cannot light a love for land, our fighting might. For freedom we stand and are unmet. The storm and struggle our spirits set. Hands clasped, tight, strength unspent. In unity we find our lament. Under starry skies our dreams ignite. Facing the dark with fearless light. Though shadows fall, they cannot light a love for land, our fighting might.
Into one thing I want to get into right now, right? Is this is from the Lexington Herald Leader. As a Kentucky veteran, I know the U.S. military should not be sent into U.S. cities. And sure, they put that this is someone's opinion. But in all reality, there are things such as dangerous opinions, because these dangerous opinions spread what I would consider wrong ideas. Okay. As a veteran myself, as someone who comes from a family full of fucking veterans and full of military service, right? There seems to be this misconception about the fucking United States military, because we want to have certain laws to prevent the common use of military within operating domestically within the country, right? But here's what people need to understand. Your oath as a service member is to not only obey all lawful commands and follow your chain of command and blah 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 blah, but the most important part of your oath is to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from both enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't know how other way to fucking put that. We live in a time and age when the most prominent threat to the United States Constitution is actually domestic enemies. It's not foreign enemies. The United States of America hasn't had a very prominent foreign enemies, especially to our way of life, since World War II. Or I would say maybe you could argue the Cold War as well, before the USSR collapsed, right? After the Soviet Union collapsed, that was it. China does pose a threat in other ways, but not really to our way of life. What China's engaging in against the United States is exactly what the United States engaged in against the USSR in the Cold War, and that's economic warfare. Right? Different story. Now, does that have a major impact, and can that have a major impact? Absolutely it can. But capitalism's too good, baby. So here's what pisses me off, right? Let's read it. You've probably seen the flashy headlines and YouTube clips from Tuesday's Quantico event where Secretary Hegseth and President Trump addressed our nation's military leadership. References to men in dresses and fat generals guaranteed plenty of views, but I felt a duty to tune in and see what else might be hiding behind the clickbait. It's not clickbait. As chair of the Kentucky Veterans Caucus and a leading advocate for veterans and military families, I owed it to my colleagues, peers, and constituents to study the briefing in full. I expected political rambling and maybe some buffoonery. What we got was much worse, a dangerous attempt to justify turning our military against our own citizens. No, it wasn't at all. It wasn't at all. I watched the 45-minute fucking speech from Pete Hegseth. It wasn't an attempt to turn our military against our own citizens. It was actually an attempt to remilitarize our military in a lethal fashion to be ready for threats, primarily foreign threats. The briefing to senior military leaders quickly devolved in a political theater. Just a few minutes in, Hegseth mocked the woke department and climate change worship, clearly more interested in cable news propaganda than actual policy. No, it's not cable news propaganda. I was in the United States Marine Corps from 2015 until 2020. It's not propaganda. I was in the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps was full of fucking weak bodies and fat bodies. The Marine Corps was pushing fucking DEI policy to promote black Marines for the sake of them being black to meet quotas, then they were actually just going based on merit. And this is coming from the United States fucking Marine Corps. My little nephew had something, I think he gave it to you. He probably did. But what truly alarmed me came about 30 minutes later. Hegseth openly rejected rules of engagement, the very standards drawn from international law, like Geneva conventions that prevent war crimes, protect civilians, and distinguish a professional military from terrorist organization. No, they don't. No, they absolutely don't. I don't know where the fuck this so-called Kentucky Veterans Caucus leader is getting this shit from. The Geneva Convention and rules of engagement, which are rightfully derived from the Geneva Convention and other international law. They're not there to prevent war crimes and protect civilians. And they're definitely not there to distinguish a professional military from a terrorist organization. Because all you have from the left right now is support for Palestine and Hamas. Hamas does not adhere to international law or the Geneva Convention. But guess what? Only Israel is being fucking boycotted. Imagine that. Only Israel is being protested against and demonstrated against. Oh, that's fucking crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That the people who aren't following the Geneva Convention aren't the ones getting any fucking flack, but the people who are following the Geneva Convention are getting all the flack. Yeah. Pete Hegseth is intelligent enough to realize that America has become incapable of winning the wars that the United States of America engages in because of bullshit rules of engagement and the bullshit Geneva Convention. And I guarantee you right now, this ass who wants to claim that he's a veteran never had to serve in combat. I guarantee it. And granted, neither did I. But why should I, as a Marine Corps veteran who did not have to serve in combat, why should I be promoting a set of rules that only really apply to the fucking infantry Marines? Huh? Why should I make their job harder? And why should I increase the likelihood of them dying to protect people who don't even want to protect their own people? Nah, fuck that. If people want to start a war with my country, if people want to engage in a war that my country so rightfully feels that we must engage in, then the gloves are off. They chose war. It's that fucking plain and simple, is it not? They chose war. All is fair in both love and what? Exactly, war. The United States of America has not engaged in a war where there were rules of war since World War II. And even then, that's fucking saying something. Because guess what? Sure, we steamrolled over the Italians really easy because of socialism, they weren't ready for fucking war. Germany was taking hostages and torturing hostages, not to mention the genocide. The Japanese were taking hostages and they were biologically experimenting on US service members in the Pacific. And then all we get from the left nowadays is shit on because we removed Japanese Americans and German Americans and put them in detention camps. Sure, were they treated pretty poorly in some circumstances? Yes, they were. Sure. Oh, in retrospect, is that looked at as negatively? Yeah, but you know what the latter could have been? The latter could have been exactly what the Germans and the Japanese were doing to us that we could have been doing to them. And guess what? It's not like the Japanese and the Germans were so they, oh yeah, oh no, they were only taking prisoners of war. No, the fuck they weren't. And guess what? Why did the United States government do that in World War II? Because of the potential for insider threats within our own country who held more sentiment for their home countries of Germany or Japan than they did America. Because this is what happens when you have an immigration population that actually isn't assimilated to American culture and the American way of life, and when they love their country more than the now present country that they fucking reside in and live in and decided to fucking move to. According to him, American soldiers should focus only on maximum lethality without politically correct rules. In plain terms, he was suggesting our troops shouldn't have to worry about civilian lives. No, that's not what he said at all. What he's saying is that the American military should work on being lethal to the maximum capacity that the American military should, and they shouldn't be concerned about hiring Black Americans or Hispanic Americans or Asian Americans simply because of the fact that they're Black, Asian, or Hispanic. That's what Pete Hegseth was saying. That's what's politically correct. That is what's politically correct. And too many times throughout our 20 years in the Middle East did more Americans die or get injured because we were more concerned about not shooting a woman who had a suicide vest strapped to her than shooting her. We were too much more politically concerned about shooting a kid who had a suicide vest strapped to that kid than not. This is something Chris Kyle basically highlighted very, very well in his stories. This is something that caused him to have an extreme level of PTSD, is having to actually snipe women and children because they had suicide vests or they were running towards a military checkpoint with an AK-47. This is what Pete Hegseth means. But of course, where is the background? Where is the background? Huh? There you go. You highlight there, right? All enemies, foreign and domestic. I see danger abroad, and I have seen what happens when military forces are unbound from law and ethics. What I have heard Tuesday at Quantico made me more fearful for our republic than any retreat I encountered overseas. But where is your background? Huh? Representative Adam Moore, a Democrat from Lexington, represents the 45th House District in Fayette, and he's the caucus, right? Let's see. Let's see real quick. I don't have his EDIPI, do I? Or any information about him. There you go. Having served in the army, so there's strike one because you're a. Oh, wow. He served in the U.S. Army Reserve for 5 years, so he wasn't in the fucking military. Hold up, there's only one way that he could be in the military. Where did you have any deployments in that time? He earned his bachelor's degree from Murray State University in 2007. His career experience includes working as a coach. Moore's been affiliated with the following organizations, blah blah blah. Um, did Adam Moore did hold up. Did a representative Adam Moore serve in combat? State Rep Adam Moore, a combat veteran who served in the U.S. Army Reserve, represented the caucus today. Where did he serve? How come you can't find anywhere where he served? All right, let's go. Even Wikipedia doesn't have anything here that states that he served in combat. He's an elected official, and he doesn't have anything on his Wikipedia that says he served in combat. Do you know why? Do you guys know why? That's because he didn't. There's a random Facebook post. Republicans veterans across the district are supporting combat veteran Adam Moore. I served with Adam on where did he serve in combat?
Politics, but I'm making a serve with Adam in the Mayor's Commission for Veterans Affairs. Critical service, intelligent, who will serve Kentucky 45th District West.
You guys keep saying he's a combat veteran, but no one explains where. Meet state representative. Here we go. Here's another article to find out where he served in combat. A Republican turned Democrat with military credentials and a centrist view of politics. Okay, so again, where did he serve in combat? So because everywhere that tries to claim that he's a combat veteran doesn't actually say where he served in combat or where he was deployed to, I'm erring on the side of he didn't operate in combat, he didn't serve in combat. Where did Representative Adam Moore see combat? Let's see. Is an Army vet who represents part of Fayette and Jessamine counties. All right. Yeah, so there's nothing there on him being a an actual combat representative. And let me point this out, right? Again, I want to highlight this. Yeah, you got beat again, Matt. I don't know how you keep getting beat. You know, the streams are at 11. Don't know how it's possible. So again, you have here a man who served in the army as a reserve military service member. You guys understand what that means, right? A reserve military member, what they do is they go through basic training just like an active duty service member. And then they go back to being a civilian. They don't serve active duty in the military where every single day they put on the uniform. Every single week they have to make sure their hair's cut. Every single day they have to make sure their face is shaven. Every single day they have to interact with the military, the Department of Defense and the military apparatus. What a reservist gets to do is a reservist gets to pretend like they are a military veteran and pretend like they have the exact same level of experience, proficiency, or training as an active duty service member. So basically, what a reservist likes to do, or what they get to do, is they get to cosplay once a month, where they go in for one weekend out of a month to do training. And then like one time or the one time a year they would go on like a training exercise to maintain their skills in their MOS if you're in the Marine Corps, or your fucking job in whatever other branch. So what you have here, and this is why, here's why I'm changing my title now. We are changing the title. Why veterans, in quotes, need to shut the fuck up, and veterans need to speak up. Right? Because this is what you have here, and this is what pisses me off. And I barely consider myself a veteran. Oh, because I put fuck Twitch, did I offend somebody? Shut the fuck up. Here is why I barely consider myself a veteran, right? Because I was an active duty service member in the Marine Corps from 2015 to 2020. No, I didn't see combat. And does that technically make me a service member? Yes, it does. But the reason why I would say that I barely consider myself a service member is because I was active duty. If I ever had served in the National Guard or the reserves, and don't even get me started on the National Guard is literally the exact same thing as being a reservist. It's literally the exact same thing as being a fucking reservist, right? But actually, being a National Guard member, you have a higher likelihood of being fucking deployed than you do a reservist. So it's almost like National Guard is actually more so being akin to being in the actual fucking military than being a fucking reservist. Yeah, and all of you, I know people who are reservists. I have close friends that have been reservists and shit like that. Yeah, I'm shitting on you. And if you're upset about me shitting on you, well then maybe you shouldn't have joined the fucking reserves, and maybe you should have went active duty. Okay? So what you have here is you have an army reservist. An army reservist who thinks because he got elected and thinks because he was in the reserves that he gets an opinion on the military, where again, trying to do a cursory search, right? I can't find anything about his military service other than some random shit says he's a fellow combat veteran. Combat where? Because all the veterans who make statements like this, who try to justify they have combat experience, they cite their combat experience. They cite the years they were deployed, the tours they were deployed on, the operations they served under, and the locations they were at. But he doesn't. Right? So here, he wants to bring up the Posse Comitatus Act. A judge hasn't found that the Posse Comitatus Act has been violated because there's been no instances of the American military engaging in law enforcement activity. They have not been detaining or arresting individuals. So again, how about you cite that? Right? So again, this is the problem with veterans trying to act like they're veterans. This man is no veteran. This man is no fucking veteran. The only answer that I will accept for him being a veteran is if he went to combat and served in combat. So his MOS he better have been infantry or a fucking infantry officer, because prior to joining the army, he received his fucking degree, right? No. You're writing a speech to play political partisan, That is why you, Adam Moore, Kentucky State Representative, this is why you are talking about a speech that occurred in Virginia. Because the location doesn't matter. Because the location occurred in Virginia, because it occurred at Quantico, because that's already where a lot of military brass exist. And it's a good focal point to have your military leadership, especially for a meeting with the Secretary of Defense. So again, I really wanted to get into this, right? Because American service members who actually served active duty overwhelmingly support Pete Hegseth. American service members who are currently active duty overwhelmingly support Pete Hegseth in this line of messaging. And because we actually served active duty, especially in a more recent time period than Representative Adam Moore, because he's a dumbass and he doesn't know what the military is like in 2025. He doesn't know what the military is actually like because he served in the reserves. So he did not have to actually experience the day-to-day military that actually exists today. You can ask Matt's dad. You can ask my friend Aaron's dad. You can ask my friend Brandon's dad. You can ask my dad. You can ask me. You can ask my co-host when he returns what the fuck the military was like in the last fucking decade and a half. The actual fucking military. And you want to know why? Because my co-host was active duty, my dad was active duty, my friends' dads were fucking active duty, my cousins were active duty, my uncles were active duty. You can ask them. And yes, some of my cousins are fucking Democrat. Unfortunately. And they were service members. But do you know why? Because they weren't the service members who had to serve in combat zones overseas. They were the ones who were working the desk jobs in the military for a short stint. And don't get me wrong. I was a cyber network operator, and then my secondary MOS was a Marine security guard. But I didn't grow up with liberal fucking like this dumb far left ideology and shit like that. So it didn't matter what job I did in the military because I didn't join the military for an education benefit or for travel opportunity or some dumb shit like that. I joined the United States military to give back to my country. So of course I'm already going to be a fucking Republican / conservative, whatever job I did in the Marine Corps, whatever job I did in the military. But you cannot, right? And I urge y'all, sure, in the, like, you as a civilian have no right to shit on somebody, even if they are a reservist or a National Guard and not active duty, because that's the job of us active duty service members, right? At least they made it through basic training, right? So that's why we shit on them so hard. But I absolutely urge y'all, whenever you are talking to a military veteran, find out if they were a reservist, if they were in the National Guard, or if they were active duty. If they were a reservist or National Guard, then find out what actual experience they have, as in, do they have foreign deployments to hostile countries? Because guess what? There are veterans who like to claim, who were active duty, that they went to a combat zone because they were deployed to Djibouti or some dumb shit like that. Or you have veterans, most commonly in the Navy, Army, and Air Force, like to claim they were deployed overseas. And obviously the immediate assumption when you hear someone was deployed overseas, you expect combat. No. These motherfuckers are telling you they got deployed to Germany or Italy or Spain or some dumb shit like that, right? So when you hear veterans talk, find out their background of their military service and then make your judgment from there. And I'm telling you, as an active duty veteran, right? as an active duty Marine Corps veteran, I barely consider myself a veteran. And yes, I served overseas, not in combat, but as a Marine security guard. I did serve in nations with heightened threat assessment, which is Egypt and Mexico. Right? I also served at NATO and fucking Belgium. But I don't consider myself to have deployed. I don't consider myself to have been in a combat zone because I absolutely was not or anything like that. I barely hit the threshold for being a veteran, and that's purely because I served active duty. And when you serve active duty, that's 24 hours of every single day of 7 days a week of 365 days a fucking year that you can be called to do your job at any fucking time, any place, right? Or you're in the military. There is no leeway. There is no, oh, I work an 8-hour shift and then I'm off. Right? This actually goes for all military branches, but more so for the Marine Corps because we believe in always being a Marine. But it does actually apply to the other branches as well. So, yeah, this is why I just spent 40 minutes on this fucking article alone. Because this guy is a piece of shit. And he uses his background as a cudgel to try to bring validity to his fucking partisan political bullshit. It's simple. It really is simple. The only time that the United States of America, and this, right, he wants to claim that he's a centrist. I can tell you right now he's not a centrist. One, look at him. He tries to be a pretty boy. One, conservatives don't do that. We don't go for that. We're either hot or we're not. All right? Two, he went and got his fucking degree prior to joining the military, not after joining the military. You will find that a lot of service members who are more conservative get their degrees after joining the military, not before. Or while they're in the military, actually. 3, he was in the reserves. 4, he has a problem with Pete Hegseth's fucking speech, right? But what is a centrist view to the Geneva Convention and rules of engagement that are dictated by international law? A centrist view would be those only apply if we're fighting an enemy where those rules apply. Crazy, right? Crazy fucking concept. That would be a centrist view. A leftist view is they apply no matter what because we would rather have our service members die than, God forbid, the civilians in another country that the enemy is hiding behind. That's a leftist view. A conservative view, I would argue, is fuck the rules of engagement in the Geneva Convention, but we don't actually live in a conservative country. We live in a liberally conservative country. So conservatives also have the same opinion of me, right? Which would be a centrist view of, yeah, we appreciate rules, right? Because we want to minimize civilian casualties. But if we're fighting against an enemy where those rules don't apply to them, then fuck them. Those rules don't apply to them, so they don't apply to us. The fact that he's upset about the United States military being focused on maximum lethality without having to be politically correct. When did the term politically correct start to really show up in society? Right? It wasn't World War II in the Geneva Convention or the development of the United Nations in international law. No, it's primarily in the last decade when we started talking about being politically correct. And this is, oh, you can't do knife hands at people because it's too aggressive. You can't tell a recruit he's a fat fucking piece of shit and he needs to stop eating, right? That's being politically correct. So the military is done with that shit. Because if you're a fat fucking recruit, you do need to stop eating. You eat too fucking much. If you're a fat service member, you do need to stop eating. You eat too fucking much. You need to start working out now more. Once you're out of the military, go ahead and be fat. I don't give a fuck. That's your personal decision. But when you're in the military, you and your ability to perform your duties, other service members are dependent on that, right? It's very critical. right? Hegseth's kill people and break things mentality was disturbing enough on its own. No, it's not. No, it's not. But the real chill came once the president started speaking. What if the civilian lives this new Department of War dismisses are on an instant battlefield, but here at home? It's not far-fetched. President Trump built on Hegseth's theme by repeatedly referencing the war within and the enemy within. Yeah, imagine that. And right down here, you even say, because the oath I swore as a veteran did not stop at the state line, I swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But you are neglecting the domestic part. As so many veterans, so many Americans, and so many fucking political pundits like to constantly disregard. We are the most powerful country on planet Earth. The biggest threat to our country has always been internally. Has always been internally. We have the two most immediate countries to the United States, Canada and Mexico, have always been extremely weak, pathetic, and economically inferior countries. Culturally, they're inferior. Economically, they're inferior. Militarily, I don't even want to fucking talk about that because it's not even funny. And I don't mean culturally as in some dumb shit like Sweeney would say, oh my God, that's a white supremacist point. No, I'm saying like their culture doesn't influence our culture, but our culture does influence them. You don't go to the movie theaters in Mexico and Canada and not see like their movie theaters are filled with American movies. Sure, do they have locally based content as well? Yes, they do. But you don't go to the movie theater in America and there's Mexican movies and Canadian movies. Now, do we have actors from Mexico and from Canada that are part of Hollywood in the US? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Or, they're dual citizens and shit like that. But I'm saying our culture influences them on such a higher scale than that. Mexico, well, you know what? Their food, it's kind of winning, right? But it's not actually winning, right? Because there's a difference between actual Mexican food and then Tex-Mex, which is border food. And that is literally the shared cultural food that was created between America and Mexico. But this is the kind of shit that pisses me off. Domestic. Just like if you are a security specialist, you understand that the biggest threat to your security plan, your security infrastructure, or your threat assessment is always internally. Because there's a point when you harden a target so much that the actual easiest way to attack the place is being an inside threat, an insider. All right? And here's why it pisses me off. We're probably going to extend this to a fucking hour at this rate, right? So I'm here for the DVD session you and King invited me to. I'm a not. Okay, well, we're starting right now. No, I'm first. Says it right next to my name. I don't like my HR lady right now. Why is that? So here is why, right? This Democrat representative is neglecting to talk about how Democrats have actively been bringing in illegal aliens in mass and then disregarding voter ID and apportionment by Congress. Is that or is that not a threat to the Constitution of the United States? Because how Congress apportions representation across the 50 states was determined by the Constitution. And it's meant to be for United States citizens. So US citizens are the ones who are being represented by the government because the country is for the people. Not for all people, it's for the people. Why the fuck do you think there is a the in the phrase? We the people, by the people, for the people. Why is there the? Why is there the? Ask yourself this. It's a common sense fucking question. The reason that there is a the is because there is a distinction between the people of the United States, which is citizens, which are citizens, and people. It's not a government built for people, by people, right? And it's not we people. It's the. There is always a the in between we, by, and for the people. It's that fucking simple. Just think about it. Why has it always been framed that way? Well, because back in the day, they didn't have to deal with illegal aliens and illegal immigrants. So guess what? What their frame of mind is already asserting that what they're saying about the Constitution, what's written about the Constitution, what they wrote about the Constitution is framed from the perspective of being for the American citizens. That's rule number, that's one point. That's one singular point that I just wanted to point out. 2, Democrats are completely opposed to the United States of America making its economy independent from the world stage. That's a threat to our way of life. When another country has the economic capacity to cripple the United States, like they tell you the loud part out loud, right? Like all of these companies and the Democrats keep telling you the prices of all your goods are going up because of tariffs. If the prices of all your goods are going up because of tariffs, then that means your economy is too fucking dependent on foreign nations. And that means at any time those countries can stop selling products to you. And then what happens? Then your economy fucking crashes. So what is Trump trying to do? Realign the economy. Woke indoctrination into the military is a threat to destroying the United States military and undermining its capacity to fight and win the wars of the United States of America. And why? Because when the military is more focused on bringing in transgender service members who are already psychologically ill, according to the DSM-5, right? And so there's two options here, right? There's two options here. They are literally psychologically ill, they're mentally ill, right? And that allows them to receive medical operations as a form of treatment, or they're not and it's all made up. Those are your two options. And why do you come to this determination? Because all of the medical and scientific professionals from thousands of years of human history have decided and determined there is in fact only two genders. And guess what? As much as a problem that I don't have with the LGBT community, right? Like whatever, that's your sexual preference. The other people that are a part of the community, it's not about sexual preference. It's literally about psychological illness, right? But the LGBT community is also psychologically ill. And why is it that we say these people are psychologically ill or mentally ill, right? It's not because LGBT people are fucking crazy, because they're not. They're just sexually attracted to the opposite sex of, or the same sex of what they are, or in the terms of bisexual, they're sexually attracted to both, right? But how do we determine that people are mentally ill or mentally disturbed or something is wrong with an individual mentally? The exact same way that we determine whether or not something is wrong with somebody physically. Is somebody sat down for a long period of time studying men and women and said, this is the normal, the typical behavior of a man and the typical behavior of a woman, and this is typically what they have. They typically got 5 fingers on each hand. They typically have 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 feet, 5 toes on each foot, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So if you're missing a toe or you have an extra toe, well, something's physically wrong with you, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's always bad. When someone's talking about someone being mentally ill or psychologically ill or something like that, right? You consider someone with PTSD or extreme anxiety or depression to be mentally ill. It's not always bad. No, it's not. Being lesbian, gay, or bisexual, right? And this is coming from a conservative who believes in God, need I mind you. I don't think it's bad. I think as long as they strive to live their lives as close to how Jesus did, right? They try to live their lives as heavenly as possible, right? And they give themselves over to Jesus Christ and God, they'll be saved one and the same, right? I don't think God is as malicious as the left has tried to paint him as believing. For one and for two, but I don't think there's really anything wrong with them. I disagree with them. Why do I disagree with them? I'm straight. I don't want to have sex with another man. Just like gay dudes don't want to have sex with women. So guess what? We can shake hands and we can agree to disagree. But apparently, as a straight guy, I'm labeled as homosexual for that. Or, sorry, homophobic as that. Why aren't gay people labeled as heterophobic for being against the idea of having sex with someone who is of the opposite sex than them? Exactly. See how it doesn't make sense? So, I mean, and this is the politically fucking correct bullshit that I'm talking about in the military is being concerned about, like, you don't want gay people in the military. Why don't you want gay people in the military? Because you already have instances of a whole bunch of shit in the military, and all that does is increase those numbers of incidents. Right? It's that plain. It's that plain and simple. Two, typically people who are homosexual exhibit like, the reason why nobody wants homosexual men in the military is because they exhibit traits of being more feminine, lower testosterone levels, stuff like that. On average, right? Their behavior is much more feminine, stuff like that. Or here, most people would explain it as, why are gay dudes in America always the stereotypes? When I was in Mexico City, right, the women in Mexico would always, like, whenever like I was talking with them and we're like at the front of security or something like that, whenever there was a super jacked dude, they'd be like, oh wow, he's so hot, but it's unfortunate that he's gay. And I'm like, how do you know he's gay? And they were, because in Mexico City, all the dudes who are in really good fucking shape and jacked, they're always gay because they're more concerned about their physique and stuff like that. Right? So they have a different stereotype of gay dudes in Mexico than we do here. And here we have them being very feminine, and they talk in a higher pitched voice, and they talk, they talk in a certain way and stuff like that. Why the fuck do they do that? I don't understand. I don't understand either, but the stereotype is pretty fucking accurate. But the reason we don't want homosexual guys in the military is for that. Why is it okay to have lesbian women in the military? Because they typically exhibit more traits of being more masculine. So if you're going to have women in the military and they're lesbian, well, those are going to be the women that are the ones who are capable of dragging you out of combat because they have higher testosterone levels. And this is what most likely actually leads them to being more sexually attracted to women, and gay guys being more sexually attracted to men, is that those men have higher levels of estrogen, lower levels of testosterone, and those women have higher levels of testosterone and lower levels of estrogen. I don't know. Trust the science, I guess.
With the beat of the drum and the fife so high, we march with courage under the sky. Banners wave and hearts on fire, in the name of freedom we aspire.